In this video, I'd like to show you how you can create these cards using art glitter glue. I'm dedicating this video to my niece Laura, who loves glitter, and I mean loves glitter. So this is for you, Laura. Let's get right into it. For this project, I'm using part of this set of Stencil Genie. This is actually meant for cookies, and it's two frames like this that snap together with a magnetic corners. And if you make cookies, this is perfect to do some stencil decorating. The way it works is you place this on the frame here, which I think the stencil could have been a little bigger just so it doesn't fall through the hole, but the stencil goes here and then the frame goes on top of it, so it holds the stencil, and then you can put a cookie underneath and put the stencil with the royal icing on it. So that's what this is meant for. But for my purposes for this, it doesn't work because I want to stencil the paper, and there's this thickness and the paper is not that thick. It doesn't work to use the frame, but I do love all the stencils that come in this set. Here are some, move this out of the way, here are some examples of some of the stencils in it, which are pretty interesting and, you know, cool designs. I mean, I think there are 20 in here, but there's lots of options, and I love this set because, you know, you pretty much have a whole set of stencils for projects. For this project in particular, I'm gonna use this stencil for one of them. I'll show you 3 different designs, and first one is this. Now I have just cardstock, and these I'll use for making cards, but you can certainly use for other projects, boxes, you know, whatever you'd like, flowers. And I'm using cardstock. It's a little heavier, and I set down the stencil on here. My other favorite thing, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I always mention art glitter glue. This dries clear, but it is so versatile, and I use it pretty much for everything. I rarely reach for something else. On occasion, but this is my definitely go-to glue. So I will take this and position it wherever you want on your paper, and then I'm using this as a paste. So make sure this stays put. You can add a little bit of removable tape just so it doesn't shift. So I'll spread some of this around, and then I just use a spatula to spread this around, and I want to spread it as thin as possible, covering the stencil. And you want to work fairly quickly. This is glue, so because it's thin, it will dry out, and you don't want to glue your stencil to your paper. So I work fairly quickly with it, and then we just remove this. For this project, I'm going to use this stencil. Now if you try, and I did try using a finer stencil like this, where it has really fine lines right here. If it's a line like this or here, that's really hard for the glue to kind of separate, so it tends to run together. So you do need a little bolder lines for it. And I'm gonna put the stencil right on top of my paper, and then apply this art glitter glue on here. And then just lift this off. So you should be left just with the glue on here. Now it looks like there are a couple air bubbles here, so I'll pop those. Okay, now the next step for this is to take your paper, and I'm going to apply glitter on here. And I have this whole set of various colors of glitter, and I'm just gonna liberally cover this now. I'm gonna do it one more time just to make sure I covered all of it. And just make sure you tap the paper so all the excess falls off. Okay, so at this point, this one is done, and I'll show you some cards that I end up doing with these at the end once they're dry. So I'll set this aside. I'll do one more with a different design just so you see what it looks like. Just be warned, you're gonna have fine glitter everywhere for the next 6 years when working with this project. For this one I have a brownish kind of color, and I'm gonna use this stencil with leaves on it. Now some of this area where it kind of smudged underneath, it's fine. I'm just gonna end up using the rest of the area, so I don't mind that it kind of bled underneath there. And this one I had a little more glitter of this color, so it's easier to do it in one shot. You don't have to do it again. I just didn't have enough of the other one. Look how pretty that is, adding it on here. So this is the second one, and I'll set this aside for it to dry. Now you don't necessarily need to use this type of stencil that I just showed you. You can use any stencil that you may have. It works with this. Now this is one that you can apply to glass, for example. It's kind of sticky on one side, or was sticky on one side at one point, but this works as well. So I want to show you that you can really use any stencil that you have. Now this stencil is a lot thinner, so it requires a lot less glue. And because it's thinner, you're gonna have to work faster with this one because it's gonna dry faster than the one where the glue is thicker. And if you have excess glitter around the design, that's fine. Just leave it for now until the glue dries, and then you can use a brush to brush it off. But look how pretty that is. Okay, so I'll set this one aside as well. And then the last one I want to show you is, this is on Yupo paper, and I did this with alcohol ink. I won't get into detail about the alcohol ink. Just wanted to give you an idea of one other way you can decorate your alcohol ink project if you choose to, or use this as part of a card. And this is another kind of sticky stencil on the back. So I'll put this down on here. On here, now this is again a thicker one, so you have a little more time to work with it. And for this one I'm just gonna do gold. I'm gonna shake this off, and actually I'm gonna do gold and silver. Okay, same thing with this. If it has little spots where you see in between, you can just brush those off once the glue is dried. At this point, just leave it alone. But look how pretty that is with the glittery effect to it, and then having that alcohol ink background. It almost looks like a jewel. So these are the 4 that I did. So I'll let these dry and then resume with making some projects with them. For this first card, for the green glitter that I did, I am using this set of dies, which is a Z-fold card from the Stamps of Life. And I've cut out, it has all these different dies plus some more that I've already taken off. And I cut out the smallest panel, which is right here. I cut out the glitter part. So I'll set these aside. This is the Z-fold card that I cut with the largest die in here. And to use this, I did use the Big Shot Plus because that accommodates this length of a die. And I have these various sizes which were also cut using that set of dies. So these I will attach to the inside. Okay, that goes in there. Then I'm going to do this one here next, because this is also visible, which goes right here. This is where I'm going to attach this glitter part. And then up here, from the same set of dies, it has these embellishments, and I cut out using the almost like the shadow effect, and then the flower for it. So that I will add right here. And I'm gonna add this part with some foam squares just to give it a little more dimension. And then this I'm gonna stick with art glitter glue again. Okay, and you can leave the card as is right at this point, or add a sentiment to it. So for this one, I think I'm gonna leave it. But how pretty is that with just a touch of glitter on here? For this next card, I am using this Anna Griffin set of dies, and this cuts out the card, which I cut right here and already folded in half, and then using one of these center panels to cut from here. So I cut this out as well, and look how pretty that is. And it has nice glitter to it. So this is gonna go on here. Now I intentionally cut the next size down because I want to cut one size higher in a different color to create a border here. And for this one, I cut out using just an ivory color, and that's gonna go here. And then once this is mounted, then for this part, for the sentiment, I'm using the Card Making Magic. In one of the sets there is this inscription with the shadow to it. So I'll pop these out. Okay, and one last item to kind of tie everything together are these from the same set that this inscription is from, are these leaf sets. And I just cut two at the same time just so I don't have to run it through twice. And these I'm just gonna add glue just at the end of this instead of trying to glue everything together. And then I'm gonna put this underneath here. Okay, so that is card number 2 using that glitter. Now I mentioned when you do this and then if it looks like there's glitter in between your design, not to mess with it when you apply it. So just let it dry, and then once it's dry, you can go back and sweep in between. And it looks like it's kind of taking some of it, the excess off from the other ones too, but then you end up with a clean image for the rest of it. Now for this one, I want to trim some of this excess off and then just frame the rest of it on a card. For this card, I cut out 2 mats that I'm going to put this on. So first one is this blue one. Okay, the blue one goes on first, and then this one. Okay, now what I want to do with this card is I want to add a little more interest instead of just having this and then I made out the sentiment and putting it right here. I mean, you could do that. I'd like to put it at an angle right here, and I want it part of this. So I'm gonna cut this right over here because I want to separate these 2 pieces so that I can insert this in the middle. I'll just set it where I want to cut this and how I want it separated. So it's gonna be right down the middle here of the inscription. Alright, so I cut the corner off. No, we don't need this anymore. And this is gonna go right up to here, and this is gonna come down over here. So I can insert the word thanks right here. So I want to put this down here about the same distance as it is on this side here. And then for this, I'm just gonna use this double-sided tape. Then this is gonna go right here in the center. And that is the card with the Yupo paper, creating that background and then stenciling that glitter on there. One of the stencils that I used out of the set for the cookies was this one that had flowers on it. And some of it seemed to smudge. The glue itself kind of ran underneath because the lines were so fine. But so I kind of set it aside and I thought, well, that's, you know, a waste. It's nothing's gonna happen to it. But look what a cool effect this created. It almost looks like it's embossed, but it's on the back side, it's just plain. There's nothing there. It's the front side that has this embossing effect to it, but it's really just the glue through the stencil. So you can kind of see, now the places where you see a little bit of white like this, that was actually a bubble that I didn't pop, and I didn't pop it because I thought I would just toss this because I didn't like the way it turned out. But I will certainly use this in a card design because it's just so pretty and it has that glossy look to it, whatever the raised part is. And thought I would do a card with this one, which doesn't have any glitter on it, but I'm using that art glitter glue to create that embossed effect. And I mounted this on just some backing to have just a frame around it. Made a little flower, which I have another tutorial on, you can watch for that. And then for this one I'm using the Stampology set of stamps, and I'm gonna stamp this always. I'm using the Mini Misty on this because I want to make sure that I can stamp a couple times in case this is not sharp enough, instead of using just a block like this, which I used for the other card. This one I can re-stamp multiple times if it's not dark enough. Because it's such a large stamp and I don't want it to be everything so blocky, I'll kind of trim around, almost like fussy cutting in a way, just to make this a little smaller and won't take up as much space. Now I will add foam squares to this just because I want to have this a little raised. I hope you enjoyed this video. Lots of options using this art glitter glue, especially the one that dries clear, because you can create all kinds of effects with it using just adding glitter to your projects. I guess that's the name is art glitter for a reason. If you don't use glitter, this is what you end up with, but with the glitter you can certainly jazz up your project. If you have any questions, please comment below. I do have links for all of the supplies that I'm using for this project. If you end up making something with using art glitter glue and creating a project, please join my Facebook group and post your project there. I would love to see it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next project.